Mini episode 171 of the FDH Lounge is brought to you by Sportsology, delivering unconventional columns and webcasts about sports, TV, music, movies, and more. Follow them on the web at sportsology.info.
The FDH Lounge. You'll want to schedule your life around it.
A long time ago, on a gloomy, wet Cleveland spring night, two men stand alone amidst the late-night drizzle. Their voices echo across the vacant station parking lot as they debate the merits of the great American radio show that have been missing for far too long. On that night, an idea was born. That idea became the FDH Lounge. Welcome to the FDH Lounge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to mini episode number 171 of the FDH Lounge. We have a very special one for you here today, delving once again into the world of music, which we have touched upon many different times in the past with this program, and always to very special effect, and that will be the case certainly again today. We have been very fortunate on the show to be able to have on a number of gentlemen, and most of them are actually contemporaries of his for what were peak years in their careers also. This is a period of music that we particularly love. We've been fortunate enough to have four members of Journey, Greg Rowley, Ross Valerie, Steve Smith, Steve Perry, a number of other contemporaries of this gentleman as well, Christopher Cross, John Anderson, John Oates, Rick Springfield, Jim Peterick. The one that really comes to mind is Jimmy Jamison, because he has done some duet work with him. They recorded together, I understand, did some touring together, really did some great things musically together, and of course each of them associated with a significant legacy in their own right. Jimmy Jamison, of course, associated with his long stretch for the best years of Survivor, and this gentleman today is associated with certainly the peak years, in addition to his own solo work, associated with the peak years of Toto. I can only be speaking of the one and only Bobby Kimball, and it's a pleasure to welcome to the FDH Lounge. Bobby, good to have you on, sir. How are you today?
I'm very good, sir. How are you?
Oh, fine, thank you. What a pleasure to have you on with us, and get a chance to hear about your career and everything that you've got going on to this very day. It's interesting because, like I said, there are a number of guys that we have had on who were big at the very biggest point that the Toto was. That's certainly a great period of music, that late 70s, early 80s. Stretch
I heard you,
in
my
there.
brother. You were talking about all of my friends.
Well, it's interesting because, Bobby, I always look for similarities in these different things here. And with our recent conversation with Ross Valerie, he was underlining about the roots of Journey with those guys having done a lot of session work. And I understand that as Toto came together, you were coming in from an existing band, but I understand that you were getting together with some of the biggest session players of the day, right?
Yes, and I became a very, very big session player. Actually, I was doing background vocals. The minute I got together with Toto, David Paich and I sang on one of Diana Ross's albums. We were recording our first album in Studio 55, owned by Richard Perry, who was producing Diana Ross, and he needed some background vocals, so we were in the other studio. He just walked down the hall and got us, and we came down and we did background vocals on the album that she did in 1978.
That's tremendous to be able to get to do that yourself, and you guys were bringing in some pretty big guys behind you at different points, as I understand it. One of our cast members here with the program is not only a fan of your group, but the world's biggest fan of Poco also, and he pointed out to me about Timothy B. Schmidt being a part of some of your greatest work in the early 80s.
Absolutely. Timothy is unbelievably talented. He did a tour with us while he was out of the Eagles. The Poco had broken up, and he went with the Eagles, and then the Eagles broke up, and he was kind of on the loose just for a moment, and we were going out to do a tour, and he joined us for that tour, and oh my God, he's such a wonderful person, number one, but he's so talented.
And that was really, a common denominator with that group, wasn't it? I mean, you talk about all the great session players that were involved as this thing came together, but it really seems like just one of those kind of magical meetings here. When the group got together, because the talent level of everybody in the group was so renowned.
Yes, actually, David Page had just had co-written the Silk Degrees album with Boss Skaggs. And basically, David Hungate, the original bass player with Toto, Jeff Picoro and David Page were on the Silk Degrees album. And anyhow, after that album, they decided that Jeff and David were the headliners of Toto. They are the ones that decided to put the band together. They named the band. They did everything. And after the band was together, Jeff pretty much was the last word on every decision, and he was a very, very intelligent guy, and all of his decisions pretty much are the very thing that brought Toto to the level they went to.
It's interesting, that a lot of times in a band there is a strong man there taking the reins and making the very tough decisions, and it had to be an increasingly rewarding path to be going down here as you're moving through the late 70s and getting into the early 80s here and moving towards that peak period with the band. As you were building towards Turn Back and everything subsequently, Toto 4, as you were building towards that, what was the sense in the band of just getting towards this enormous commercial peak and really having the world discover and embrace you as they did?
Well, okay, let's get one thing straight. There was no sense in the band. Actually, everybody was, everyone was pretty much having a great time, but everyone was also still working on other people's music.
Okay.
And so was I. After that session, David Page and I sang background vocals for Diana Ross. All of a sudden, I met one of my best friends, Bill Champlin. Bill Champlin played keyboard and sang with Chicago for 28 years, and he's one of my favorite musicians in the world and one of my best friends. But he co-wrote "After the Love Is Gone" that Earth, Wind & Fire did, and he co-wrote "Turn Your Love Around." George Benson won a Grammy on. And anyhow, Bill and Michael McDonald and myself became a background vocal trio around 1979. And practically everyone who was doing an album then, they didn't have Pro Tools or anything, any of the mechanical devices that they use these days to place background vocals on without anyone singing. So, and the thing is all of the background vocals basically were triple tracked. Every note that you listen to on a background vocal was sung 3 times on each chorus. So we basically had to sing each chorus 3 times and record it perfectly, and then you couldn't cut and paste that into another chorus like people do now with Pro Tools. We had to go to the next chorus and do it, had to be triple tracked there, and then the outro had to be triple tracked, and then we would all get out there and do, little scat vocals on the end. It was super fun working with those guys, and the thing is we were a trio, basically, and sometimes Michael wasn't available, so Tom Kelly, who is also a really fantastic singer, is very, very similar to Timothy B. Schmidt. But Tom Kelly and Bill and myself, we also had a trio going. But any one of us that got a phone call to go and do background vocals on an album, we would tell the guy producing, "Don't call anyone else. We'll bring the team."
Well, what a team it is! Yeah, that's tremendous talent there.
Yeah, well, many times, you know, we would go ahead and let the producer leave and just leave the engineer, and we would triple track the parts. We would write the parts, sing them, triple track them, and leave. And it was super fantastic singing with these guys because we absolutely had our balance. You know, Michael, with Michael and Bill and me, I remember one day we were singing in Davlin recording studios, and it's a huge recording room. They can put an orchestra in there, and we were doing background vocals, and Michael sings very soft, and he was like about 1/2 inch from the microphone. Bill was about 8 feet behind Michael, and there was another room. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't totally closed off. You know, it was just a great big door. But I was in the other room, and the balance was 100% perfect.
Oh, that sounds amazing to be a fly on the wall and to be able to see the process of you guys doing this. So your point is well taken. So you were keeping pretty busy in the studio with any number of projects here, and you know, having the great time to be able to work on these other amazing things that were going forward. So as Toto was building towards its peak there in the early 80s, did it sort of catch you guys a little bit by surprise because you were working on so many different things here? Did you guys see it coming when you broke out big, or was it kind of a surprise?
Well, actually, after the Silk Degrees album, which won 2 Grammys, okay? This is basically kind of why David and Jeff got together and said, why don't we form our own band? And actually, they had talked to Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald about being lead vocalist. I had just gotten out of this group called SS Fools, and SS Fools was a band that I came from Louisiana to sing with. And the band was made up of 3 of the musicians from Three Dog Night Band. The singers had left Three Dog Night, and I got a call from a friend of mine who I played in a couple of bands with in Louisiana. And he's a saxophone player. His name is John Smith. And anyhow, he had moved to L.A. and became friends with those guys from Three Dog Night. And when the band broke up, the bass player, Joe Sherman, Floyd Sneed, the drummer, and Michael Ossip, the guitar player, decided they wanted to stay together. And John got with them to play sax. He's a sax player with the White Trash band, Edgar Winter's White Trash. And John called me. I was on the road with my band down in Louisiana, and he called me and asked if I would come out and sing. And I said, with some guys from Three Dog Night, are you kidding me? And I kind of felt like, Stevie Wonder in the beginning of, that song Living in the City. Wow, skyscrapers and everything. I came out of a little 3,000-seater town right on the Texas border. I was living in Louisiana, and had a great band down there. I really, really loved it. But anyhow, yes, I said, absolutely, I will come out and sing with you guys. And the cool thing, where I grew up in Louisiana, only 3,000 people right on the Texas border on Interstate 10. And the thing about it is at the time, the drinking age in Texas was 21, and in Louisiana it was 18. Therefore, they had 5,000-seater clubs lining that border, and several 1,200 to 1,500-seater clubs. And this is where I kind of, I grew my roots down there. And I played all of those 5,000-seater clubs, and I thought 5,000 people was a regular audience. Yeah, I couldn't imagine playing to less than 5,000 people. So, anyhow, I came out and we went on the road. We recorded for CBS Records with SS Fools, and we went on the road. And actually, it wasn't that successful, but at our 20 rehearsals before this tour, Jeff Picoro and David Page attended about 10 of those rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I met Jeff and David. You know, there I was playing keyboard and singing, and about 4 feet from me, sitting on the floor, listening to the band, was the drummer from Steely Dan. I was going, oh my God! And standing right behind him was David Page, who had written the Silk Degrees album and produced it. And you know, it was a phenomenal thing to be playing, number one, with some of my heroes from Three Dog Night, and then to be meeting some of, you know, David and Jeff. It was, I don't know. Sometimes I couldn't catch the breath.
It sounds like an amazing experience. Oh yeah, it sounds. It really was. What an incredible world this was of that time and place. You had it building towards the ultimate peak there with Toto 4. And one of the questions that we always pose on this show, you know, particularly with some of your friends that we've had on previously.
Are you going to ask me what I have on?
I'm going to keep my own perversion under wraps long enough, Bobby. We like to take people behind the curtain, help them understand the business even better, which really sounds redundant because you're breaking it down so well and telling such great stories of that time and place. But to give people an even better and more revealing look at that, the whole concept that the public, I think, and that this is a recurring thing that we have talking to people. We've talked to people outside of music about this too. The notion of mailbox money, the notion of once you've hit it really, really big, that for the rest of your life, maybe it's not a huge train of gravy that's coming in, but that there will be residuals coming in to some degree. Most of the guests that we've had on have debunked that to some degree or another and said, yeah, it's not quite what the public generally thinks. Do you fall in line with that, Bobby, or is it maybe a little closer to what some people think about the business?
Well, actually, I am still getting paid, but there are a few questions about whether it's correct. You know, I will be checking on that because I'm no longer with Toto. I have my own band.
Mm-hmm.
I was out of Toto. I started in Toto basically right at the end of 77. And we recorded in 78 and toured in 79. Our first, we hadn't actually played over 2 songs in a row. When, you know, this is right before we were supposed to be touring. And so what we did is we went to Kauai in Hawaii because it's a fairly unpopulated island, and we stayed at the Kauai Resort Hotel for 2 weeks, and we played in their nightclub, which is fairly large, but you know, you don't get seen by the whole world out there. You know, it's just, you know, maybe about 300 people a night in there, and we were playing 2 one-hour sets per night so that we could get ourselves lined up for our set because after 2 weeks we went to Oahu and played Blaisdell Arena, which is a huge arena. And we were the warm-up band. By the way, Hold the Line was number 1 there at the time. And we were the warm-up band for 2 nights for Peter Frampton.
Oh, okay.
And, oh, yeah, Peter was fantastic. I love Peter. He's still a really, really good friend of mine. And anyhow, the funny thing is that the guys in the band, you know, especially David and Jeff, they were walking the floor right before we went on stage. They were walking back and forth. You remember this? You remember that? Remember this? and this is our very, very first concert, okay? And so anyhow, when we got on stage, I swear everyone was so hyped up. We could have probably gone up there without our instruments and played that set. And so, oh, my God. And the crowd went absolutely bananas. It was fantastic. And so really a funny thing because the crowd was storming the stage by the end of the concert, our concert. And then we left the stage, and Peter came walking on the first night with an acoustic guitar, and they put a bench out there. The band didn't come on with him, And we had just left the stage, and everyone was, they were standing on each other's shoulders. It was insane. And so Peter walked out with an acoustic guitar and started playing. I mean, he's a fantastic acoustic player and singer. But, the second night, he got the hint. He brought the band on and started knocking them down right away. He's a huge talent and a wonderful person. I just love him to death. I've done several things with him since then. But anyhow, the next 5 concerts Toto did, after those first 2 with Peter Frampton, we warmed up 5 concerts for Kenny Loggins.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think it might have been the second to the last night. We were only doing a 45-minute set as a warm-up band for Kenny. And anyhow, it was kind of a cool thing because they had talked to Michael McDonald and Kenny about being the lead vocalist of Toto. And Kenny was, he was immersed in his own group, of course, and Michael was in the Doobie Brothers already, and so they didn't want to leave a successful thing like that. And at that point, I was basically I was out of work for about 6 weeks because I had left FS Fools, and so they said definitely you got to be the guy, So I said, well, definitely I want to come in, so I did, and we did 5 concerts warming up for Kenny Loggins for that would be our first 7 concerts, and the second to the last concert, they had some problems with locating the microphones, a few of the microphones on the board. And normally what happens when you warm up for a big artist like that, a famous artist like that, and you're a new band, what happens is they just if you have to look through the electrical stuff for about 30 minutes, you only get a 15-minute set.
Oh, okay.
They just cut you off, and it took them about 45 minutes to locate the microphones in the board. A lot of times things like that happen. And so anyhow, for that 45 minutes, that was our whole set. And Kenny, he is such he's a wonderful person. He's as good a person as he is a musician. I just love him. And he walked out on the stage and got on the microphone and said, ladies and gentlemen, he said, this is a new band. He said, I really, really want them to do their thing and entertain you and show you what they are all about. He said, they're supposed to do a 45-minute set, and it's taken that long to get all the equipment straight and everything. He says, I'm going to let them do an hour. Yeah, he came off stage. I gave him a big hug. I said, thank you so much, man. Because a lot of times the headliner band, most of them are jerks. They just want to do their thing. They don't care about the first band. So we got out there and did our thing, and it was super fantastic. We ended up actually Kenny was finishing out his tour on our last gig together, and his crew, we hired half of his crew to go on the road with us. One of the reasons is Kenny was out there singing, and the guy that was doing the drum tech, he was behind the drummer, and Kenny's microphone popped out of the little microphone holder. Before it hit the floor, this guy dove and caught it about 3 inches from the floor.
That's professionalism.
He became our drum tech, and we had about 4 of the guys that he was using as for his crew members. We brought them on the road with us, and oh my God, they were so incredible. We always had a wonderful crew with us, and that is very, very important because they need to know every iota of everything you do, because that's how they set you up, to entertain. And the better you're set up, and just walk out there and start playing, the better off the concert's going to be.
Sure, that makes sense. You got to have that kind of professionalism involved and everything. When you're talking about professionalism and talent, it's funny, Bobby. I was a little bit surprised when I forwarded you that email a couple days ago. You hadn't seen this previously. The Jay-Z Africa thing that was out there of the mashup of your music. From what I can see on YouTube, your music is fairly popular for mashups these days. So what are your thoughts on folks significantly younger than myself who weren't around at the time and enjoying it at the time, but discovering you in a new way today, possibly because of something they saw on YouTube where your music was combined with something else?
Well, I got to tell you, most of the time on the road, like I said, I was out of Toto in 1984. We started in 77, and I was there till 84. Then I moved to Europe, but I was out of the band for quite a while, and they had a few singers after me. But honestly, I think they were always looking for me again.
Yeah,
and,
I think so.
I actually never thought I would go back with them. But in 1998, they called me because they had fired that last singer, and Steve Lukather went out and did the tour, did the tour vocals. And the thing about it is he can't do the songs that I sing. Well, he can, but he'd have to drop the key about quite a way.
Sure.
And those things they're attached to me. I still go out and do them with my band. But
yes.
Anyhow, they asked me to come back in 1998, and we did a new album called Minefields, which I really love that album. And when I came back, I was with them for 10 more years, and then the band kind of dissolved in 2008. Our last concert was in Korea, in Seoul, Korea, and Steve wanted to do a solo band because basically at that point of the game, Jeff Porcaro had died in 1992. It was from some bug spray for his roses. Mm-hmm. He was spraying it on his roses, and it got all over him, and it arrested his breathing. And I'm not sure, but I think he may have had a heart attack, and he died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. That was one of the greatest musical losses on this planet. Sure. He was so fantastic, and what a wonderful person he was. If I hadn't known Jeff, I had split up with my daughter's mom. She was only a year old at that time when Toto was starting, and I'd split up with her, and I didn't want to make him homeless, so I gave him my house. And I was homeless. So Jeff came over. He put his arm around my shoulder and said, "Come on, bro." He said, "I know your problem well." He said, "I got a guest room." He said, "It's yours until you find a place." And he was just that kind of a nice guy. He was super. And anyhow, that's when Toto got started and everything, and it was a wonderful thing to know Jeff. But he passed away from this bug spray, and then let's see, it was about Steve Porcaro had left the band after the Toto 4 album. So did David Hungate, the original bass player, and Mike Porcaro took David Hungate's place, and we all knew that eventually someday Mike Porcaro was going to be the bass player with Toto. And we basically always had two Porcaros in the band, because when Steve left, Mike came into the band. so it was Mike and Jeff instead of Steve and Jeff. And so at some point there during the Falling in Between tour, which was the last studio album I did with Toto, and it was a really fantastic album, by the way. That was an album we went into the studio with absolutely no songs, and the band, we put the machine on to record. The band went in and jammed for about 6 hours. And then Simon Phillips, who is an absolute genius on recording and mixing, and oh my God, he's an unbelievable drummer too. But anyhow, it was his studio, and so they would jam for a long time, and he would go in and go through the recording really fast, and he would cut out what he considered a verse. He would cut out what he considered a pre-chorus and a chorus and an outro out of all of that jamming.
Okay.
And then he would put it on a CD, hand it to me, and I would bring it home and work all night from 16 to 18 hours on the lyrics and the melody for that album. And I thought it was a really fantastic album. If you haven't heard Falling in Between, you need to.
It is a great piece of work, certainly.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't have any songs when we walked into the studio. We made it up on the spot.
That's truly amazing, Bobby, just to have it come to you like that.
That is a different kind of animal that can do things like that. It
Absolutely.
really is. But so anyhow, neither here nor there. In the for the tour of Falling in Between, Mike Porcaro started feeling some weirdness in his hands. He was having trouble holding his hand against the bass. He's having muscular problems basically. And in the middle of that tour, he walked in and told us, guys, I'm going to have to get a substitute because I can't do this anymore. And because he had no idea what the problem was. The doctors could not find out they couldn't figure it out. They were thinking probably Lyme disease in the beginning. But the final tally on that, after so many tests and so many different doctors, was Lou Gehrig's disease. He had ALS.
Ooh.
Yes, and I talked to him about a little over a year ago, but I don't want to bother him, and I'm not sure what his condition is right at the moment. I know my daughter's grandmother had Lou Gehrig's disease. She lived for 23 years with it.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
That's a hell of a success story. Wow.
Yeah, the norm is 2 to 2.5 years.
Right.
Before it arrests your ability to breathe.
Sure.
Yeah. And the other thing is David Page was out on the Falling in Between tour, and not very long after the tour started, David had been trying to save his sister, who is his only living relative. Both of his parents had passed away, and he has no other relative, family. And his sister needed a double lung transplant. And I have to tell you, I watched a lot of that go down, and he was trying to fight that battle from the road. And my friend, you cannot fight that battle from the road. You have to be on it every second of the day. And so Dave decided to get a sub. We got Greg Fillinganes on keyboard, and on bass to replace Mike, we had Leland Sklar. And I have to tell you, these are two of my favorite musicians in the world. And they're really, really super nice people. Leland started with James Taylor, and if you Google Leland Sklar, it's Sklar, if you Google his name, you're going to come up on his. You'll come up with at least 3 pages of people he's played with. He played with Phil Collins. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of people he's played with, but he is just
that's
that
amazing.
Talented. Yes, and we had a week off when Mike decided that he wanted to get a sub, and man, our set was a mean set. It was long and very, very tough, and we had sent Leland a recording of the set, and about a week before, we sent him this recording of the set, and we came into L.A. We went into to Simon's studio and rehearsed with Leland. The first day he came down to rehearse with us, he made 0 mistakes. It was like nothing had changed. It may have improved.
That's a real pro right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Same with Greg Fillinganes. You know, Greg Fillinganes was Michael Jackson's music director for 10 years, and he has played with as many people as Leland Sklar. He's phenomenal. He's a really fantastic singer. Sings like Stevie Wonder and plays like God. Mm-hmm. He can play things that, you know, other keyboard players can't even imagine. You know, I was on stage one night when David Page showed up at an L.A. gig and Greg was playing. He was playing this solo, and Dave and I were standing next to each other, and Dave was looking at him, and he looked at me and he says, "Nobody can do that." Where did this guy come from?
Truly amazing. I mean, you've been in such a universe of great players over the last couple of decades here, Bobby. It's an unbelievable thing. In our time that we've had today, and we're up against it now, I feel like we've only really hit the tip of the iceberg. So I definitely would love to do this again sometime soon, Bobby, and pick up where we left off and hear some more great stories from you.
You got a couple more seconds? Okay.
Absolutely.
Can I tell you about the Bobby Kimball Band?
Yes, please do. Yeah, catch us up on what's going on with that, please.
Okay, the Bobby Kimball Band is from Stockholm, Sweden, and the guitar player is a friend of mine since 1994. His name is Tommy Denander. That's Denander. Google Tommy Denander, and you will see that he's done as many things and as many CDs and albums as Steve Lukather with some of the same artists. You know, he played with Michael Jackson. He played with everybody. I've worked on 2 of his solo albums and wrote a couple of songs with him for those. And he's phenomenal on the guitar, and he's such a wonderful person. He's one of my best friends. And the drummer in our band is a guy named Pontius Ingberg. He's 31 years old, and about the closest thing to Jeff Porcaro as I've ever heard on stage.
Wow.
Yes, and you know, I did 15 concerts in 14 days with these guys over in Sweden during December of 2011, and the biggest newspaper there gave us a review. And the headline on the review was the Bobby Kimball Band, and right under that is a Toto dash the way the music should sound.
Nice.
That really, really freaked me out because I respect Toto to death. You know, I mean, they'll always be my favorite band. You know?
Oh, but that's great. That's great to be able to get put over like that. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, everyone has really, really come to the table on this one. You know, they know the stuff so well, and not to mention, you know, we're going to record a CD, so it's going to be pretty phenomenal.
Well, we'll be following everything that happens with that, Bobby, and I know that at your website, I believe it's BobbyKimball.com, correct?
It is. Okay. And by the way, I have a personal app that's you know, it's being geared up right now, but it's a free download if anyone wants to. They can go to BobbyKimball.com and download the app.
Okay. Excellent. We urge everybody to do that, and I sincerely hope that we can pick up where we left off sometime soon, Bobby, because, again, this was as advertised. Such great stories from you about a tremendous career in music over the decades. I know there's more that we can do. I look forward to that, sir, and thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Okay, well, let's just leave this at we only covered about 1/16 of the information.
Bobby, we'll hit the next 15/16 in a series of segments to come. Why don't we leave it at that?
You got it, buddy, and let's do it real soon, because I have recordings of the band on the very first day they were in the same room. I'm going to digitize them, put them on my website. I have recordings of things you can't even believe from Toto in the very, very startup of the band.
Wonderful.
And
well, you said
people need to hear this.
You said sometime soon, from your lips to God's ears. We'll do it, Bobby. Thank you so much.
Okay, my friend.
Appreciate it. Thank you. The great Bobby Kimball, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. FDH Lounge mini episode number 171.
As we bring the show to a close, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, all Clear Channel affiliates, TNT, TBS, USA, UPN, Deadspin.com, YouTube.com, YTMND.com, MySpace.com, various blogs, Fox News, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, IamBoard.com, Billboard.com, Google.com, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN Classic, NBA TV, NFL Network, Sports Time Ohio, Athlon Magazine, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, The Boomerang Channel, QVC, BET, The Spice Channel, Steno Notebooks, Manwich, Papermate Office Supplies, Waitresses, Strippers, Bartenders, Garbage Men, Janitors, Microwave Popcorn, the writers of The Office, Scrubs, Entourage, My Name is Earl, Oz, Metalocalypse and the Boondocks, Aquafina, and The Periodic Table of Elements.